She remembers the smell first: damp straw, smoke drifting in through broken boards. The air is cold and heavy. Somewhere nearby, boots scrape on frozen ground. She is sitting on a wooden bench inside a temporary holding camp in southern Germany. Spring of 1945, her hands rest on her stomach. It is already showing. She is 24 years old. The war has collapsed around her. Her husband is missing. The Reich she was told would last 1,000 years has vanished in weeks. Outside, American guards move between rows of barbed wire. Trucks idle. Engines rumble. She does not know where she will be taken next. She only knows she is pregnant, malnourished, and classified as an enemy national. Fear presses on her chest harder than hunger. In her mind, questions repeat without answers. Will they send her east? Will they separate her from her child? Will anyone help her at all? By April 1945, Nazi Germany was finished as a military power. Adolf Hitler had retreated into his bunker in Berlin. Allied armies had crossed the Rhine in force. The United States Army advanced from the west. The Red Army closed in from the east. German infrastructure lay in ruins. Rail lines were shattered. Cities burned. Civil authority collapsed. Millions of civilians fled combat zones. Others were captured as the front lines moved faster than populations could escape. The Allies were suddenly responsible for feeding, housing, and processing enormous numbers of people. These included surrendered soldiers, forced laborers, concentration camp survivors, refugees, and civilians swept up in the chaos. The term prisoner of war expanded in practice. Many women were held temporarily for screening, relocation, or security reasons. The Geneva Conventions focused on soldiers. Civilian women fell into a gray zone. In American-occupied zones, military government units tried to impose order. Field hospitals were established rapidly. Medical personnel were overwhelmed. Supplies were limited but improving as logistics caught up. American nurses, many from the Army Nurse Corps, arrived behind advancing units. They treated wounded soldiers first, then civilians. Disease spread quickly in camps. Typhus, dysentery, and malnutrition were common. Pregnant women faced extreme risk. Many had gone months with little food or prenatal care. Allied policy officially required humane treatment. In practice, conditions depended on location, leadership, and available staff. Southern Germany, including Bavaria and Württemberg, saw large numbers of temporary detention and displaced persons camps under U.S. control by May 1945. These camps became holding points, while authorities tried to separate Nazis from non-combatants and plan mass repatriation. From her perspective, survival narrowed to basic needs: water, warmth, rest. She had worked in a textile factory during the later years of the war. Food rations had shrunk steadily. Bombing raids disrupted supply lines. By early 1945, she was fainting at work. When American armor arrived, the factory closed overnight. She was questioned briefly. Her papers listed her as German. No party membership, no military service. Still, she was transported with others to a temporary camp. The journey took hours in the back of a truck. She was sick the entire time. In the camp, she slept on straw. Her body ached constantly. Fear was constant, but quiet. She did not cry. Crying took energy she did not have. When cramps began, she thought it was hunger. Then the bleeding started. Other women noticed word reached a guard. A medic was called. The medic was male, overworked. He recognized the danger, but had no facilities. She was marked for transfer. She did not know whether that meant help or something worse. From a tactical standpoint, American commanders faced a logistical nightmare. The rapid collapse of German resistance meant millions of people suddenly fell under Allied control. U.S. Army units trained for combat were now responsible for civil administration. Medical units were stretched thin. Nurses were assigned wherever need was greatest. Field hospitals operated in requisitioned schools, convents, and barracks. Transport was limited. Roads were damaged. Fuel was prioritized for combat units. Decisions were made quickly, sometimes crudely. Pregnant women were low priority compared to wounded soldiers, yet untreated pregnancies risked deaths that could destabilize camps and spread disease. American medical doctrine emphasized sanitation and prevention. This pushed some officers to approve civilian care, despite limited guidance. It was not charity, it was necessity. Keeping civilians alive reduced chaos. Technology shaped every decision. Antibiotics like penicillin were available, but scarce. Blood transfusions were possible, but required refrigeration and trained staff. X-rays were rare in forward areas. Most diagnoses relied on observation and experience. American nurses had trained under wartime pressure. Many were young, many had already treated severe trauma. They worked long shifts, 12 hours or more. They slept in tents or requisitioned buildings. Their equipment was basic, but effective. Sterilization mattered. Clean water mattered. Simple interventions saved lives. For a pregnant woman suffering malnutrition and stress, rest and nutrition could mean the difference between life and death. Nurses understood this even when policy lagged behind reality. From the enemy perspective, surrender brought humiliation and uncertainty. German civilians had been told terrifying stories about Allied occupation. Some were true in the East. In the West, fear still dominated. Being dependent on the enemy for survival created shame. For pregnant women, that shame mixed with vulnerability. Many feared punishment. Many feared separation from their children. American nurses were often the first enemy personnel to show direct care without interrogation. This disrupted expectations. It did not erase fear, but it altered it. Care created confusion. Confusion created space for survival. The turning point came on a gray morning in early May 1945. She was loaded onto another truck, this time alone. The ride was short. She arrived at a converted schoolhouse marked with a red cross. Inside, the smell was different. Soap, disinfectant, clean fabric. An American nurse met her at the door. The nurse spoke slowly. Gestures filled the gaps. She was examined immediately. Weight was taken. Danger signs were noted. The diagnosis was clear: severe malnutrition, risk of premature labor. The nurse made decisions quickly. She ordered bed rest. She ordered extra rations, milk, bread, broth. She requested vitamins. The woman was moved to a clean cot. Sheets were changed daily. For the first time in months, someone touched her without suspicion. Over the next days, nurses monitored her closely. They measured pulse, watched for fever, treated infections before they spread. When labor pains began weeks later, they were ready. There was no drama, no speeches, just work, clean hands, calm voices. The child was born under American supervision in occupied Germany. The mother survived. The child survived. Records were filed. No headlines followed. After the birth, reality returned. She was still a German civilian in an occupied country. She was not free immediately, but her status changed. Mothers with infants were prioritized for civilian housing rather than detention. American authorities worked with local German administrators to place women like her in stable environments. Food rations remained tight but improved through late 1945. The child grew stronger. The mother regained weight slowly. She learned basic English words from nurses, enough to say thank you. The nurses rotated out eventually. New assignments, new wars. Korea would come, but their actions remained fixed in her memory. Not as kindness, as competence, as professionalism, as survival delivered quietly, strategically. These small acts mattered. They reduced mortality. They stabilized occupied zones. They shaped perceptions of American power, not through force, through systems. Medical care became part of occupation policy. The U.S. Army documented lessons learned. Civilian health mattered to security. Nurses became essential actors in post-war Europe. Their presence influenced how former enemies understood defeat. It was not gentle, it was controlled. That distinction mattered. The aftermath stretched far beyond the camp. Millions of children were born in Europe in the shadow of defeat. Their survival depended on decisions made by strangers in uniform. American nurses returned home largely unnoticed. Few medals were awarded. Their stories remained fragmented in letters and reports. For the woman and her child, life continued under the weight of loss and rebuilding. Germany lay divided. Cities were rubble, but survival allowed choice. Memory hardened into fact. She knew who had saved her, not a nation, not an ideology. Individuals doing their jobs under impossible conditions. This event taught the world something quiet but durable. War ends on paper before it ends in bodies. Victory creates responsibility. Medical care becomes a form of power. How an army treats the vulnerable shapes the peace that follows. In 1945, American nurses did not rewrite history. They prevented unnecessary deaths. That was enough.